surreal. You dream it, you plan it, and now democracy becomes a living reality.
I, Jared Anthony Seeley.
That's it. My decision is made. After so many years debating and public speaking in secondary school, agitating in UB Guild on campus, and through our youth pressure group, I have to stop just talking about change and be the change. Come to think of it, I'm going to radicalize this place. I wonder if that's even really a word. Radicalize. I think I'll use it in my campaign slogan.
Taking this away, I said me this, you know.
That's what
what's the scene?
Right.
The scene cool, but you know I intend to change that.
Change? You're not trying to change the status quo. Let's stop now. How many various issues we try to bring up with our youth?
A few.
Has it gotten us anywhere?
Yeah, but
Disillusionment, man.
Check us. We're all at our first jobs and we've already realized that we can't change anything. So much for shaking things up, eh?
look, I'm not saying change happens overnight, and no one can see into infinity.
True.
But I can certainly try to take charge of my destiny.
Yeah.
And maybe by doing so, influence a few others to join me in creating some sort of change.
Right. You advocating any manifest destiny. But what Google it now is when somebody advocates something in the belief that it's best for everyone. Like you partner,
Jared, you have things to do? Places to go, people to annoy?
Yes, I do. But you know people like me. It's my charm and my intellect. Which makes me a perfect conduit to effect change. You all know this. Which is exactly what I intend to do. By stepping into Parliament as a new Member of Parliament for Shagarama Central.
Conrad, why would somebody want to become a political candidate?
My initial response is they don't, but having regard to what occurs, I think that as a candidate, you have a responsibility to your constituents. You have, in some instances, 20,000 people that you have to speak for, that you have to represent. And that's a responsibility that people don't understand. My experience has been that candidates basically are people who can win a constituency. And to win a constituency, it means that you would have had to have a background in wanting to help people. And usually that is what comes to the table. I want to help people. I understand what their needs are. I keep talking to them all the time. They think that they could trust me. And therefore, if somebody says that, listen, I want you to represent me, then I say, okay, can I get the support?
But Kevin, certainly the whole notion of someone running as a political candidate under the banner of a political party means that to some extent they would need to subsume their personal convictions and projects that they have for themselves as individuals. How do you see that working?
Well, the fact is candidates very rarely win a constituency. It is the party, and therefore when the party is choosing a candidate, they're really looking at someone who will not offend or lose them votes according to the sensibilities of who they're trying to appeal to. So in that context, it's really a matter of choosing a candidate who already, I think, mostly agrees with the party's philosophy and approach, or really has no problems with the party's problems.
This house has 2 voters.
This person's going to need assistance. She'll need transport on the day.
And this elector wanted a tree Trinidad branches to touch in the electricity line.
Now guys, take careful notes. I don't want to forget what I promised. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm good, thank you.
My name is Gerald. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I
you.
appreciate your vote and your communication.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
That was a long walk. Boy, have a new respect for candidates now, yes?
I have a new respect for MPs. I mean, trying to listen to as many constituents as possible and then attempting to fulfill all their needs, that's a monumental task.
You see who side of it, you know?
Politics chose me, You know, I've always championed causes and ran for office at Students' Guild and social organizations. So my commitment to improving people's lives is my raison d'etre.
His reason for being there.
Practicing for parliament.
No, I genuinely want good for my country and its people, as cliche as that may sound.
What happens then is that you go into the constituency, you convince people that this is who I am. You may not know me, but I will represent you properly. And then on that basis, during the election process, if sufficient people think that you are okay, then you are elected and you get into the parliament. Now, once you get into the parliament, it is expected that you would represent their interests. Now, being in parliament and being in government are two separate things. Being in parliament means that you have the final say in the laws of the society. You also have the final say in representation, because your constituencies' voices, their concerns, the issues that are important to them are represented by you in that forum.
And what happens when the aspirations of your constituents collide with the broader national agenda, Kevin?
Well, then always in our political culture, the party takes precedence. And what Conrad said is technically correct, but not so in practice, in the sense that what the party wants, there's no separation between constituency and government, or parliament and government, because nowadays, with the small size, every MP gets appointed to be a government minister. The only way they don't is if they fall out with the political leader.
Yes, but the appointment of a cabinet position does not guarantee anything. Because if you think about it, when you get into government, you have a structure of expenditure. So when you get into government, you know that there's $9 billion worth of costs related to salaries and wages. There's $9 billion worth of costs related to debt repayment. That's $18 billion, it doesn't really matter. So when you are a minister, for example, and you're a minister of works, it means that your budget and what you can do is constrained by the amount you have. And therefore, the ability for the constituents to get what you want as a result of you holding office is usually not something that happens very easily. You really have to go and negotiate, you have to make friends, you have to ensure that you could do a better job than everybody else in looking after your people.
Okay, guys, guess what? I have the figures from our sample survey. And guess what? We're trending well.
Well done. We're doing good. Well, good.
I still want us to concentrate on these areas though, because if we look at the previous statistics, it's polling division 1789, 2112, and 4753 that attracts the most swing votes.
Brenda, let me see that. But we walked these areas 3 times already.
Yes, and we'll walk it again, and again, and again. A candidate must walk his constituency 3 times. First, to make initial contact. Second, to reach those that we've missed the first time. And the third time, to solidify voter acceptance. So we're behind.
But by your logic, that means it's 5 times in the critical polling divisions and 3 times in the rest of the constituency?
No sacrifice, no victory, Gerard.
Speaking of being victorious though, I wanted us to check the EBC's website. They have a section on the electoral process.
I'm a bit absorbed right now in reading the standing orders of the Parliament and the Constitution. Like I said before, I have a new respect for parliamentarians.
You know, I wasn't really aware of how detailed the functions of the parliament are. Or for that matter, the function of an MP.
Yeah. I always thought you just convince people to vote for you, you win, and then you enter parliament and talk now and again.
Actually, the work begins almost immediately. First, you must establish a constituency office, attend orientation in Parliament, then learn the basics of creating legislation, and start lobbying your parliamentary colleagues. Because to deliver to your constituents, you have to be able to lobby the government ministers in the various ministries.
For box trades?
Box everything. Debating is one thing, you know, but forming alliances and networking is a whole different political ballgame.
As well as an independent MP, I also have to ensure that I can successfully negotiate with the leader of government business and the chief opposition whip.
This is Bichi Lagi. Yeah?
I wouldn't mind if it wasn't trained to Maracas.
With bacon chuck.
Let's look at election polls now and surveys. In some parts of the world, the UK most recently, polling got a bit of a bad name because of the inaccuracy, the patent inaccuracy of what the pollsters had to say. What role do polls play, and do you think they're an effective way of really gauging where political parties stand in a campaign?
I think polls help you to identify how your strategy should be shaped. But like everything else, if the society is very uncertain, and that is evolving as time goes on, you are going to see that reflected in polls changing. I think in the case of our society today, and certainly in the case of the England experience, there's a level of uncertainty about the decision-making process. People are going to be swayed on the basis of evidence, on the basis of likes, all of those kind of things. And I think that that is what is reflected in the poll. So that the poll really is simply something to guide you, to tell you where you have to go and what you have to do. If you look at our situation, for example, and you see the parties changing strategy, that would be as a result of polls, because polls really tell you what people are thinking. I don't think polls could tell you with some certainty what the results are going to be, but it tells you as you are going along the way, what are the hot button issues, what are the issues you have to take to look at, where your campaign is going good, where your campaign is going bad.
Kevin, your take on polls?
Well, polls have been improving constantly, and I think the British thing was really an exception to the rule. So in terms of accurate forecasting, but Conrad makes an important point there. The importance of polls now is how do you shape your strategy, because you link your poll results to new psychological techniques which have been experimented on in other cultures, but you can extrapolate here a lot of the time and shape your strategy that way. The unfortunate thing about that is that it then deals with people's kind of psychological buttons rather than issues and actual implementation of policies and so on.
This is overkill. Why do I need a matrix rollout to plan my every move and activity? Just examine it, Brenda. Advertising and marketing campaign, media talk show schedule, walkabouts and cottage meetings, a manifesto, a pamphlet, t-shirts, flyers, banners. Next you'll include a campaign song with a video and have a music truck while I'm walking.
Yes, Gerard. Trust me, all of this is needed. Don't you want to communicate your message effectively?
Of course.
Aren't you vying for political office? Let me tell you something that you already know. Becoming an MP starts by campaigning and outlining your vision. And in our Westminster system, it's not just about connecting with people and sharing that vision. There's a competitive element to it. And that's where the candidate with the best and most effective plan pulls ahead.
Like you said, I already know this, but my concern is the cost, Brenda. This plan is too costly.
Welcome to the real world. You have to spend to win. If not your own money, you need to attract investors. Let's say you become Prime Minister. You're going to have to sell TNT. You have to have that core ability to attract investment. You have to sell TNT.
Prime Minister may be a bit far-reaching. Let's stay focused on my immediate intention, getting into Parliament.
Understood.
Good. So, let's also limit the scripted talking points. I know how to articulate my vision in the way that I want to. I intend to be a parliamentarian that debates, not just reads from a piece of paper. You wait till I'm an MP in the House of Representatives.
And you will be. Meanwhile, let's stay on message.
And matrix.
Conrad, what's your assessment of the conduct of campaigns, political campaigns in Trinidad and Tobago?
I think that we are in transition. I still think that the question of do you play to the audience in front of you and get them really excited, or do you actually talk to the undecideds in the society who really want to hear a different message? I think that the traditional parties, their bases will support them in spite of, but the way society is becoming more, with more individuals wanting to understand what is it that you would propose to do insofar as quality of life issues are concerned, I think that is going to change significantly in the future, the way campaigns are being held. If you look, for example, today you'd see there's a lot more conversations with people. And the reason that these conversations are taking place is because people really want to understand what it is you're going to do. You have major issues. You have issues in this society about revenue, aging population, the economy, the whole change in terms of our competitiveness, productivity. These are real issues. And people want to understand, well, how are you going to solve these problems? Because we can understand the problems because we went to school. We're educated.
Kevin, do you agree that the campaigns have this sort of agenda-setting value?
No. At this stage, not. I think that they're still appealing to the lowest common denominator in many ways. But the question of the undecideds is key. You have to profile these people. Only one pollster has done this so far, and he has found really no substantive differences between the what we call the floating voter and the usual traditional voter. So there'll need to be more polling of this group, and in terms particularly their presence in the marginal constituencies, and then maybe what Conrad has spoken about in terms of more dealing with issues, agendas and so on, we'll see more of an emphasis on that because you're trying to court those people.
Every election, the political parties put out manifestos. Do they have any impact, you think, in the final outcome of the elections?
They must, even if it's just because people are bad talking them. So what the manifesto does, it really gives people a kind of concrete printing now that they can comment on and cite and so on. So it's going to have some effect. What that might be, I have no clue, nor does anybody else. I will say that the proofreading has improved, so I'm happy about that.
Conrad?
The danger, that's correct, but the danger in that is this. Political parties put out manifestos. Some people don't look at it. But once the party wins the election, it assumes that it was based on the manifesto. And then usually what they do is they say, okay, manifesto is now government policy. So we put it in the parliament, we say, okay, this is what we will do, and we start to move to implement things that nobody in the country has taken time to look at. So while it is true that during the election process, the election period, people don't spend a lot of time understanding what manifestos say. When you get into government and you are seeing the implementation for the very first time, you say, but why are we doing this? Why are we building smelter? Why are we doing it? Well, it's in the manifesto. And to the extent that you are elected and you think that the manifesto is what caused you to be elected because you have superior policies to your opponents, then the country goes down in a particular place, and we have all the dissonance that we currently have in the system.
But is it really true, Kevin, that people call parties to account on the basis of their manifesto promises?
The manifesto, certainly for me, and I think for many other commentators, is a useful whip. Because then you can say, but you said so and so. Why are you not doing so and so?
Yeah.
These were your promises. Yeah. And so in that sense, the manifesto, it's better to have it than not have it because it makes, it commits the politicians to something.
But the manifesto is also for the next election. Because when you go back to the population, you say, hey, what? I told you I was going to do all of this, and I've completed 99.99%. So it means that if I have a record of performance, then you should elect me because I am going to perform for you in the same way I've performed over the last period. So it has a value in terms of how you validate what you have been able to accomplish to the population.
On that note, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin Balayu Singh, Conrad Enel, thank you very much.
The Honorable the Speaker.
I, Jared Anthony Seeley, having been appointed a Member of Parliament, do solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, will uphold the Constitution and the law, and will conscientiously and impartially discharge the responsibilities to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, upon which I am about to enter. Congrats. Hey, that's a long one.
We're going to speech tomorrow. Good.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Congrats. Congrats, love. Congrats.
Good thing all that walking done now, eh?
Agreed. Less walking now. More talking.
Dreaming convinces us that we know our path in life. But even I didn't foresee such a clear path to Parliament. No doubt my conviction to create a better world by impacting people's lives positively led me to this moment. Here's to Gerard Seeley, the parliamentarian. Let the work begin.